folks, this is a video that's going to show a little bit about my sound design process and how I manipulate and mangle a guitar sound to turn it into something a little bit more unique and a little bit more film score or sound designy in nature. You had probably seen, or you may have seen, a video I posted on Instagram yesterday on Friday the 8th. It was kind of a teaser related to this that had a very, very long, drawn-out, distorted drone that I said was a highly mangled guitar signal. So this is the video to kind of give you more in depth on how that works. I'm starting with a brand new project tonight, so it's not going to sound identical to the snippet I put on Instagram, but I thought it'd be interesting for a lot of people to kind of see how this process works. So let's start out by talking about the signal chain. What do I have? I've got my Ibanez Art 400. This is currently tuned down to drop C, so the strings low to high are C, G, C, F, that'd be F, pardon me, I had a fretted note there, A, and D. So basically it's it's a whole step low with the 6th string drop down another step, so that gives you this. Obviously what you're hearing right there is just purely the raw guitar sound itself. That's not real interesting though, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the Archetype Plini plugin, put it on a clean amp setting. You'll hear the difference here in what it sounds like. Let me arm that. So there you go. Gives you a little bit of an idea. Now I like something a little more ethereal and a little bit more unusual, so we'll tweak the sound a little bit here. You'll see on the screen. Turn the bass down, turn the mids up a little, make sure bright is on. I'm gonna bring the gain down, the presence up, and probably bring the output up just a smidge too. We'll see what this sounds like. Still a little gritty, so I'm gonna bring the output down just a smidge. I'm running this, Ibanez has active pickups. They're not my favorite pickups in the world, but it has actives on it, so still a little more grit than I want. So let's try to clean it up a little bit. Let's first off put it into stereo mode. Turn down the gain a little bit. Let's turn the master up a smidge. And now from here, let's go look and see where we have pedals. Okay, compressor. Let's turn the compressor on, make it a little more even. So from there then, I'm gonna stick with the amp model we've got set up. I'm gonna leave the EQ flat for the moment. Let's, however, put some reverb on this. Or let's turn the verb up a little bit. I should say it's already on. So here we go with some verb. We get something more like this. There you can hear the tail of the verb come out. May actually back off a little bit the high frequencies on that. If you haven't looked into the Archetype plugins, they are incredible for guitar sounds. This Archetype Plini is my go-to for guitar recording. So anyway, here we go. So this is with the high end backed off the reverb tail a little bit. Kind of dulls it out a little too much. Let's bring the guy back up just a smidge. And let's try to bring a little delay on. Let's hold off on delay because we're going to do something different with that. So there's our bass sound. Find some interesting chords that would go with that. So I'm just doing kind of some long drawn out chords intentionally here and not doing anything picking or anything arpeggiated. Just sticking with chords and letting them kind of ring out just to get some sound ideas going. So try some dissonant ones maybe. I'm going to bring the high end up just a little bit on the EQ to give it a little bit more presence, a little more bite. So let's take the 8K, the 4K up a little. Let's drop down the real low end a little bit because it's not really needed for this purpose. Let's see what that sounds like. And actually, let's put a little delay on it just to see what we can do with that. So let's kick on the delay here. See where it's set right now. It's got the modulation on it. It's ping-ponging left to right. So That's kind of nice. Now that we're getting kind of a general idea of a sound that we want there, maybe we'll put a little bit more modulation on it. So let's pull up the pedal board designer here in Logic, and let's pull up a chorus pedal, and let's see what we have. And let's find some chorus here. I kind of like heavenly chorus on the pedal board. So. Let's sync it to our project, which is 120 beats per minute at the moment. Just the default. You'll see on the screen I didn't even change the key. It still shows C major and everything. So. Hi, camera. So there, that gives us quite a bit of audio to play with. We've got about 7.5 minutes of audio. So now what we're gonna do, let's stop the recording in Logic. Or at least let's stop the guitar recording in Logic. Give me just a second, I'll pick back up the vocal mic here. All right, so now we got the vocal mic recording back in here. So I'm going to go back to the start of the track. So first thing we're gonna do here is we're going to bounce that guitar track down to a new audio track. That wouldn't necessarily be something that we have to do or you'd have to do in the stereo, depending on your hardware. However, like I said previously, I'm running a 2015 iMac. It's maxed out at 32 gig of RAM. It's still, however, running the internal 1 terabyte Fusion drive. If you know anything about the Fusion drives, they're not great for music production. So I kind of got to conserve some resources here. So what I'm going to do basically is we're going to bounce this guitar track down to a new track with all of the processing in it. That way we've got a track that's just bare audio, not using any processing power, that we still have the Archetype plugin running on, and we also still have the chorus running on as well. So let's do that real quick here. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording temporarily. All right, folks, we're back and we're recording. Right now you're just hearing some audio from the camera itself. It's going to sound a little bit odd compared to what was recording previously. That's because I don't have an external mic for the camera. And I'm not recording on Logic right now just to save some resources itself. So apologize if the audio sounds a little odd for this moment or two. Get the screen capture going first off. I think this will be the best way to do this. So now let's go back here to Logic. Let's go select the first track, which is the guitar track. So what we want to do here, we've got it selected. You'll see it's highlighted there. So we go over here, we go to File, we do Bounce, and we're going to do Region in place as opposed to Track, because I ran this track all the way out to 1 hour and 20 minutes to make sure we have plenty of record time. We don't need all that dead silence though. So we're going to bounce the region into place here in Logic now. So here it goes. Guitar, hashtag 01 BIP, that's fine for the name of it. So there we go, we'll let it process it to bounce it in place. Once again, the purpose of doing this is everything over here. Tuner, which obviously isn't consequential now, but Archetype and the pedal board for the chorus. Got to take those guys out of the loop so it's not using system resources in order to process those. So make sure to drink plenty of water. It's good for you. I don't drink nearly enough. I've had a ton of coffee today though. I've had about 4 cups, 40 ounces of coffee, which is pretty good amount of caffeine, but so cheers. So that is now a new file. What does that allow us to do? Notice that over here, now we don't have any plugins, but we still have our sound. So there we go. Now what can we do? We can go down here to this guy. We can disarm all of these plugins, which means they're no longer taking up system resources. So what are we going to do now? Probably the next thing to do is to do a little cutting and pasting to edit out some of the stuff here on the dead space we don't need. So First things first, let's do a little time stretching. So let's go up here. This is the flex time. So let's show flex time. Let's go to the second one here and let's use flex time. So let's do flex time speed. It's going to take it a minute to analyze this track, which is the duplicate of the first one. And you'll see it's got a whole bunch of different lines here. Let me zoom in on that where you can see it better. So notice all these different lines here. Every one of those lines are potential flex points. So what does that mean? What can you do with that? You can stretch audio based on a flex point. And let's look at a flex point. What do we have? What's a good one that we can use? Let's see. How about going back to the very start, and let's take this guy. So what can we do here? We can take that, we can make that actually into a, yeah, let's do this one. Make that into a flex, and then what can we do with it? We can stretch the ever-living crud out of that. So what does that do? First off, let's go to where it started here. Let's listen to this little section. So we're going to loop it so you can hear it. So here's what this little guy sounds like at this very moment. And it'll catch this on the screen recording, or it should. Need that. So there's what we got. Got it? So now, let's stretch the crud out of this guy. So right now, that is what? That's going from a minute and 3:23 to a minute and 7:15. So that's about a 4-second clip. Now let's take it and let's really stretch it out. Oh, I think I grabbed an extra one there. So now where is it at? It's now going to a minute and 30 seconds as opposed to 23 seconds. A little different, yes? So now we'll see what it sounds like just stretch. Once again, this is no signal processing other than stretching it. So notice something right off the bat. What do you notice there? The sound pitch has changed immensely in Logic. That's one of the things I don't love about using Logic for this. It's cool for some things, but obviously it totally changed the pitch. There's still some cool things you can do with that. You can take it, for instance, we can add some effects onto it. Let's add something like filter to it. So let's add filter jam. What does filter jam do? Well, it's like a filter like you hear on a synthesizer. So, do things like this. Adds all these interesting harmonics. And then with these interesting harmonics, you can change how much of it you want. The emphasis of them, you can change the mix. Do you want the rhythm signal or do you want the harmonics? And then you can go one further and do things like this. So that's one way you can do sound design. Like I said, that's not my favorite way to do it just because I hate the fact that it does pitch shifting, that it pitches everything down. But that is one way you can do it. So now let's look at another way to do it that's maybe a little bit more elegant. So go back here. Let's bring everything back into view where we can see it. Let's mute that track. Let's unmute our original one here, which is this guy. Remember, it sounds like this. So now what are we going to do with this guy? Now this is a new plugin that I'm still learning, so bear with me here. But this is something that I mentioned. I put a post on Instagram today that said, sound design people, PaulStretch, Google it, you'll thank me. Or something like that. So here you go. Here's PaulStretch. What is PaulStretch? It is a time stretching algorithm, but what does it do? It actually does time stretching, but it doesn't have to change the frequency, doesn't have to change the pitch of it. What you can do though is you can go in here, you can do capture. So let's say we want a specific note. Let's say we just want this, let's turn PaulStretch off. Say we just want this chord is what we want here and we want to use it. Okay, so let's look at the time. It starts at 1:24:00:00, so minute 24 seconds, okay? That goes to the end of that is 1:38, so that's 14 seconds. That's about how long the tail is for that to die out. So here's what it sounds like. kind of cool in its own right, but that's what you get. It's just basically a chord. I'm pretty sure I was playing an open drop C chord. There it is looping again. So now here's what we can do with PaulStretch. You come in here, you make it active. Notice we don't hear anything. What you can do then is we go back here. Remember we're on loop, so when I hit record or when I hit play, it's going to start putting that guy right through there. So we click on capture, which means that it's going to get ready and it's going to do what we want it to do. So, do capture. Now see here that it's picking up the waveforms it's going through. Yes, we notice that. Turn off loop. So there's our 14 seconds. So now we can go to stretch amount. Let's stretch this guy out. Let's stretch him out 77 times. And now, listen to that. Beautiful. Isn't that cool? That's just a kind of an ongoing drone that will go there. So now what else can we do that's cool with PaulStretch? We can go in here, we've got things like harmonics. So we want to add some harmonics to it. What do I want to do with the harmonics? Let's bring them up bandwidth a little wider. Let's turn the bass frequency up on them. I'm turning the level up a little bit so we can hear it a little bit better here. Although we don't want to hack off our mic that's recording in Logic in theory, although it's not really recording right now. But so there we go. So we notice that now. We hear harmonics, yes? Turn the bandwidth down a little bit. We can compress it too. So let's go down here to ratios, which is compressor. Everybody that records knows that, yes, that's compressor's a ratio. Let's compress it. Takes it a minute to process. There's a little bit of lag to it, but what is that going to start doing now? So notice we're still going, yes? We notice the fact that we still have sound, yes? We can go up here, let's turn up the main volume. Let's turn that guy to 0, suppose it's -3. There we go, get a little more levels from here, a little higher. So notice it's still going, yes? So let's try a little bit more harmonics with it. Kind of cool, huh? Remember, that's still that one chord. That's that open drop C chord. That's all that we're hearing there, only it's stretched out 76.1 times the original length. Doesn't change the pitch. We turn off the harmonics. We still got that going, see? So there's all kinds of things we can do. That's still that original chord ringing out. It'll just ring out for 76 times or whatever you set this to up here. The stretch amount, it will ring out that much distance based off what the original sound was, which is pretty insane. So, those of you that like ambient music, I'm going to turn this guy down just a smidge. Those of you that like ambient music, you like drones, you like those sorts of things, this plugin right here, PaulStretchX, could potentially be your best friend. Those of you that like doing film score and wanting to do sound design, which is my world, that's the world I'm working towards and working on. More water, does the body good. Those of you wanting to do that type of stuff, once again, this could be extremely useful for you. So even if you don't want the harmonics, you want to work with the original sound, we've got that, right? We have that going right there, which is pretty cool on its own right. Well, what else can we do though with that? We can go down here, and since it's playing that sound, we can put any type of sound we want on it. We want to chorus it a little bit. We can. Okay, that's extreme, obviously, but it's just an idea. What else could we do? Maybe we want to do something like we want to put a reverb on it, so we want to make it sound just crazy, long, and drawn out. I like H-verb from Waves. I'm a huge fan of this reverb. So, we've obviously got it going. It's a drone at this point, so the attack's not going to make a huge difference, but let's turn the wet all the way up, crank the tail all the way up on it. We can mess with the attack a little bit, and let's mess with the size significantly. And let's kill input echoes, let's kill output echoes. Remember, once again, this is a drone, so verb's only going to do so much because there's not any transient information. We can't ever do things like put the modulation in H-verb on it. Start modulating it a little things like putting the drive on it, turning drive up a little bit. There, check that out now. How cool is that, huh? Pretty sweet. Now we're starting to get a little bit of distortion going into it. I'm going to move my keyboard out of the way here so I get somewhere to rest my arm. Keyboard meaning the Apple keyboard, not the 88 key that I'm resting on, or on the 32, the M32 that I have for as a controller. So that's pretty cool, huh? A little bit of grid on it. Or we can kill that if we don't want that. We can do digital, 8-bit distortion, all stuff through H-verb we can do with it. Pre-delay, which we'll mess with it a little bit, but let's kill H-verb. Let's go back to the original sound again. So what else could we do with this guy? Oh, we could do things like we could go into Logic, we could add in sub-bass because we want some low frequencies to go with it too. Now at some point it's going to die out, because remember it's 76 times as long, it's not infinite. But we're 7 minutes in and it's still going at this point. We're going to run out of project length eventually here, but... So let's put some low frequencies. You probably won't be able to hear that really on the mic, on the camera, but... Trust me, it's building up some low frequency content now. Maybe you can hear it, maybe you can't. But there's all kinds of things. Basically, my whole point to this is that the possibilities are kind of infinite with this, because you've got, basically, you could theoretically have an infinite drone here that goes on. So once again, we're going to hit a point here where we're going to run out of time on Logic, but let's see, is there anything else we could do real quick just to kind of show the coolness of this thing? Yeah, we could do something like this. Okay, this is another cool one. Let's go up here to A1 audio and let's do trigger gate. So let's put trigger gate on it, which is an arpeggiator. And let's just leave a preset. Do something like this guy. Let's adjust the attack, slow out the release, turn up the mix. And then what do we have? And we're gonna disarm my mic tracker because that's causing me some issues. Turn that input off. So there we go, check that out. The bass sound with trigger gate on it. And then I'm gonna bring the harmonics back on. Let's see what that sounds like with trigger gate. Remember to take a minute to build up the harmonics. We lost some level, but compress the poo out of it. And notice there are also filters on PaulStretch too. So you can cut out, you can filter it just like you can anything else. High cut and low cut filters on it as well. There we're starting to build in some of that. We're starting to hear some of those harmonics coming in. Remember, we can adjust the harmonics as well too. The bass frequency right now is at 92 hertz. We can play with that. Gaussian on or off. The bandwidth, let's make them narrow. Let's make them crazy high bandwidth. And the number, we can just do one harmonic. That's really wide bandwidth. At whatever frequency we want. How cool is that, huh? So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and stop this now. But you all kind of get the point, though. You get the general idea here of what we have. So I would encourage all of you, experiment. You've got so much control. These are pretty cool times, folks. They're pretty interesting. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful or useful to some of you. If nothing else, I hope it's been entertaining. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up on it. I am trying to grow my YouTube channel. Also, I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel as well. I'm going to be putting out more content like this. Anyway, hope this was helpful and useful to at least some of you, and if nothing else, at least a little bit entertaining. And I hope everyone has a great weekend and keep creating out there. Take care, everyone.